Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Breber and alongside me is Logan Camden. And today we are going to be previewing both Eastern Conference semifinal series, which are now set in stone after the New York Knicks knocked out the Pistons last night. So they are now set to face the Boston Celtics. As we look at this matchup, Logan, how do you think the Knicks will have to approach dealing with this Celtics offense that is so potent, and do they have any chance of slowing them down?
The regular season track record would suggest that this team doesn't. Boston, in their matchups in the regular season against the Knicks this year, put up an offensive rating of 132.7. And one of the biggest keys and things that I'm looking at for the Knicks in this series to come out on top or to just have a chance of upsetting the Boston Celtics is if the Knicks defense can overcome the two glaring defensive liabilities. Carson and I have talked about this ad nauseum when we bring up the Knicks throughout the regular season and into the playoffs, and it has been the reason why we couldn't consider the Knicks to be like real deal title contenders, is just the consistency and the ceiling of this defense. It's really hard to build a great team defense around guys like Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns when they're starting as a point guard, when he is your point of attack guy, and then your de facto rim protector, Karl-Anthony Towns, at the 5. And if there's anything we know about this Celtics offense, it's that they have two superpowers. It's the volume and efficient three-point shooting, which I think the Knicks can try to mitigate, but they're also elite mismatch attackers. And so if Jaylen Brown were to get that switch on Jalen Brunson, food. Jayson Tatum gets that switch on Jalen Brunson, food, right? Anybody. Brunson's a glaring defensive liability. If they make Karl-Anthony Towns defend in space or defend pick and rolls, like it's a problem. Like, it's really hard to overcome that. So I think they should play more Mitchell Robinson, Carson. I don't know if that entails like more of a double big lineup, because I think that you're going to run into problems with that too, where both of them are having to defend in space, or Cat's going to have to be more on the perimeter. There's not an easy answer guarding Boston. Boston likes to force guys to switch, likes to get those mismatches. They like to spread defenses out and attack in space. And it's really hard. I think that Anunoby and Bridges can disrupt Tatum and Brown a little bit. I actually think that they match up pretty well against their star guards. But to me, it's about how well Brunson can match up on these mismatches and how much Cat can defend well in space. But like I said, I'm going to try to mitigate that, I think, by trotting out more Mitchell Robinson and trying to play a little more physically, man. I just think the Knicks are going to have to be more physical. I think they're going to have to win on the glass. They're going to have to try other things, because I think that I don't really see like the Knicks convincingly slowing down this Boston offensive attack. I think it's easier said than done, and I think it's you hope that you try to make life difficult on their shooters. You hope that Kristaps Porzingis has a down series, but there are just personnel limitations that I think the Knicks are going to really struggle to overcome in this matchup.
I really do not think going double big is the answer for the New York Knicks in this series. I just think Boston has way too much shooting and skill and speed out in space, and if you have two true centers on the floor, they are going to exploit that repeatedly. And if they want to match your size, then they have a way better double big look that they can throw at you with Horford and KP, and they'll still have all of that elite perimeter skill and shooting around them. So to me, that's not the answer, but the thing is, there isn't an answer. Like you mentioned, Celtics were 4-0 against the Knicks this year with almost a 133 offensive rating and a plus 17 net rating. Like, they absolutely kicked the Knicks' ass. And the reason for that is they are incapable of getting stops in this matchup. Like, the Celtics offense might as well have been built in a lab to exploit the Knicks' defensive weak points. To be fair, the Celtics offense is just great in a vacuum, and the Knicks defense has a couple of clear limitations in a vacuum, but it's the Celtics' ability to relentlessly target the two guys you mentioned, Logan. When they ran pick and roll involving Jalen Brunson this year, Boston generated 1.29 points per possession. That's a 129 offensive rating in the half court. You talk about how if Tatum or Brown get Brunson on a switch, then he's cooked. But even more significant is all of the advantages that the Knicks concede trying to prevent those guys from getting that switch. And when they call up Brunson's man to set a screen, you can't blitz the ball handler, especially with Jayson Tatum because he's so good as a playmaker. But there's so much shooting around them. And if it's Derek White screening and then popping, like, there's not a much worse shot that you can concede as a defense than a Derek White open three. So you're not going to be able to put two on the ball. What they're going to resort to for the most part, because they also feel like they can't switch, is having Jalen Brunson show a lot. But that means that the pull-up three is going to be there for Jayson Tatum a lot if Brunson shows a little bit too briefly, or if he stays on the ball for a little too long, then that pass to the popping guard is going to be there, and you're talking about an elite shooter getting a great look from three. So every time that Brunson is involved in the action, New York is basically screwed. Like, they are just picking their poison, and they both really are bad options, whatever they choose to do. And then when Brunson's just defending the ball handler, like even if it's just Derek White running pick and roll with Kristaps Porzingis, Brunson's screen navigation sucks. He's getting left in the dust, or because he's a bad screen navigator, he's trying to go under screens and he's letting up wide open threes to like a Derek White. You just cannot have that happening. So they are going to target Brunson over and over and over again in this series, and I think they are going to get great shot after great shot out of it. I would definitely put Brunson on Drew Holiday over Derek White. We've seen him matched up with both of them. I just think White is a more imposing offensive weapon in basically every way. As a shooter, he's more dynamic as a ball handler and as a playmaker at this point. Just more of an offensive weapon, but you're still not going to be able to hide Brunson. Like, they're still going to use Drew as a screener over and over if they do that. And all of the same fundamental weaknesses are there for the Knicks defense. And then you have the Karl-Anthony Towns problem. When Boston involved Cat in pick and roll this year, they generated 1.22 points per possession. So still astronomically great offense. What the Knicks are going to do most likely is have Cat playing in like a decently high drop. But if Tatum's pull-up three is on, then you're cooked. Like, he will walk into those pull-up jumpers over and over again. Plus, Cat's not a good drop defender. So, like, even if Tatum is trying to get more downhill, Cat's not going to offer much resistance at the rim. He's not good moving his feet in space. And since he's going to be playing, again, in not a deep drop, but a higher drop, like, there's opportunities for Tatum to blow by him if he gets a good runway going downhill. He's just not a good pick and roll defender. And maybe the most problematic aspect is, like, you have Cat and drop. Kristaps Porzingis is going to kill you with the pick and pop game. And
I mean, maybe. I mean, he was pretty shit in this first round.
He was, and the shot was just off, but this is a much better matchup for him, and unless his shot is just, like, freakishly off, this dude was a 40% three-point shooter in the regular season. He was the best pick and pop big in basketball. This is a matchup in which he is going to get phenomenal looks from beyond the arc, and he destroyed the Knicks last time they play. And specifically, he's just a nightmare matchup for Cat because Cat isn't built to guard in space like that. So if it is the pick and pop game, if it's KP punishing Cat for overhelping because he's such a weapon from beyond the arc, if it's him punishing Cat for not being active enough in transition, giving him a little too much space, like, he is going to get some great looks from three, and I think this should be a monster KP series offensively. I understand how much he struggled last series. That was a very different matchup, and as long as he finds his outside shot, he's going to get the looks that he needs to kill the Knicks as well. So I just think everybody is going to feast offensively in this series for Boston, and they just have way too much shooting, and it's way too easy for them to exploit Cat guarding in space. You talk about OG doing a great job on Jayson Tatum. I think that he does, but if I'm Tatum, I might not isolate OG once in this entire series. Like, why would I do that? I'm going to call up Brunson's man.
I just swing it to Brunson's man.
Or you bring him into the action over and over again. So if you do that, you're going to get great shot after great shot. And I don't think that McCall or Josh Hart are good defenders on either of the Jays. I think that they're too small to cause problems. Jayson Tatum cooked McCall this year. OG does a great job on both of them, but one perimeter defender is not going to be enough in this matchup to cover up for a couple of major weak points against an offense that has so much ball handling, so much shooting, so much size that, like, everybody on the team can exploit those defensive weak points in their own ways. It's just too much to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm taking the Celtics in this series. I don't agree that Porzingis. I'm not ready to just pencil in the fact that Porzingis is going to have a great series. I mean, he looked really fucking bad against Orlando.
Logan a 180 on KP. Logan went from being the highest on KP
look, dude,
to
he had an excellent regular
no
season. All I'm saying is I'm just not. He was bad last series, and all I'm saying is it's
absolutely.
I'm going to prioritize and take more seriously the recent sample size that you have given me more over than the. Like, don't get me wrong. I know what Porzingis is on an average in the regular season, and I know what his baseline is. All I'm saying is the last 2 weeks of basketball have been really bad. And so basketball is very much a rhythm sport. It's like for a lot of these guys, if your shot's going, normally it's going to translate and you're going to stay hot. So I'm just going with the trends and saying he's been on a cold streak, and I need to see him snap out of it in a game. And it was. I mean, it was at least like the last game was the best one that we've seen from KP, and the reason why was because he started rolling hard to the basket and getting easy looks instead of settling when his jumper was off. And so it's like I just need to see it before. But I can see it. I can see anybody on Boston having an amazing series. That's why it's such an uphill battle for the Knicks, because I feel like the Knicks can't disrupt Boston the way Boston can disrupt them, and so it's way more important that the Knicks can match that firepower offensively. And I think they have the skill to do it. I just don't think it's going to be enough. And what I mean by that is, like, hypothetically in a given game, Cat could have an awesome offensive game and be the second best player in a game. Brunson could very well be the best player in a single game with how he plays. Anunoby and Bridges can go off, but it's like the Celtics just have more margin because of the elite defense. So another key, I think, for the Knicks to get this done, I think it is Jalen Brunson being the best player in this series, being offensive number one that we've come to know and love with Brunson. The issue with that is the Celtics have a myriad of guys that they can throw it to Brunson to make life difficult on him. Like, if it's JB, if it's Tatum, if it's Holiday or White, like, it is a hellish matchup, and I think it's reflected by the fact these aren't bad numbers, but Brunson's at 27-5 in the regular season, really, really efficiently, but the Celtics don't help off a ton, and so you're able to limit some of Jalen Brunson's playmaking, even if he's killing you in isolation, and so that limits some of his value. And then I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Anunoby, and I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Bridges and Cat to just manufacture easy offense, again, because Boston is so elite at guarding in single coverage. So I am going to take the Celtics pretty convincingly in this matchup. I think it's really uphill for the Knicks, but I disagree with the Robinson thing, Carson. And here's my thing. I don't disagree with the points that you're making about why Robinson could be a bad stylistical matchup. I don't think the Knicks have a good answer for the Boston offense, and I think it is very problematic when you have three glaring defensive points that the Celtics could exploit on the floor at any given time. If it's Brunson and Cat in isolation, or if it's Robinson in space. My thing with Robinson is I know how physical he is, and I think it's just more important that the Knicks try to go towards a lineup or a player that's going to give them an advantage in one area, and I see that with Robinson and the fact that I think Robinson can anchor the glass and can at least win them some extra possessions on the boards. And I think that's just a little bit more important to me than... I don't think there's a good answer for the Boston offense. And so I see a tangible advantage by having Robinson there on the glass. You think...
What are you doing with Karl-Anthony Towns when Mitchell Robinson is on the floor out there with him? Because I think that's
I'm hoping
worse for Cat offensively. And this is not a series where he can play the four defensively at the level that we've seen from him
because previously. You're saying that Tatum's going to be at the four in most of these minutes?
They won't put him on Tatum, but they might have to put him on Jaylen Brown. Like, they have to put him on somebody who he can reasonably play
that
off
I'd be more okay with. That would be the one. I would put him on JB and I'd give him a cushion.
Yeah. I still don't feel good about that. I still don't feel good.
Dude,
about
I don't feel good.
Jaylen
I'm just saying,
Carson,
I think we're going to be a game or two deep into the series, and the Knicks are going to be desperately in scramble mode, saying, what adjustments can I make? And this is one that I would explore because at least I think Boston's going to roll in this series. Like, yeah. I'm trying to come up with counters or something that the Knicks could do to counteract this team. Boston's a juggernaut, though. I mean, we are literally... We're trying to beat Thanos right now, man.
Yeah, I can't knock them for trying stuff. I just think that all of Boston's perimeter players are too skilled, too good at shooting, too quick to put Cat on them and have him like roam off or play off them at all. They'd make him guard on guard screens. Like, I just think it'd be scary for Cat having to be actually matched up.
So your best recipe is
any of the Celtics perimeter players.
It's hard out there with them. So how much burn are you giving a guy like Rob in the series? Is he even a factor to you?
I'm probably playing him basically in the non-Cat minutes. I would not be inclined to play a lot of double big looks, and I think that Mitchell Robinson is a good player, but so is Josh Hart. I think Josh Hart is a better player, so like if I'm giving him 33 minutes and Mitch is out there getting 15, that works for me. I don't think that they need to try to force the issue because this just isn't a team that you're going to succeed having two relatively slow-footed bigs against. Mitch can guard in space more capably than Cat, but Boston is just built to exploit teams that are lacking foot speed. And if you can't contain the ball against them, you're just totally fucked, man, because you're going to be bleeding wide open catch and shoot threes. And that's when this team is at their absolute best. And that's where I worry the Knicks would really, really struggle to contain the ball at all if they have two centers on the floor. Really, I think the only way that Boston's offense slows down at all in this series is just poor outside shooting, because they're going to be getting a lot of great looks from three, as we've talked about. If they can't make them, then all right, their offense maybe won't be as potent, but they're a great shooting team. Like, that's not something that you're ever going to be able to bank on. On the flip side, I do think the Knicks offense will do fine in this matchup. Like, Brunson versus the Celtics this year gave him 27 a night on almost 67% true shooting. He'll get his. He's too good not to, and I was just raving about his floor as a scorer. His ability to consistently get into the paint and then dazzle you with his great shot making from floater range with those short jumpers to get to the line at a good rate. Like, because he is so consistent in getting to those spots and because he has such great endurance as a scorer, he is going to probably put up close to 30 points per game in this series. The thing is, Holiday and White both do a really good job on him, and they are going to make him work. This is what Brunson said about Asar after last series. Like, Brunson's going to get his, but he gave props to Asar for making him work. Asar really, really made him work. That's what I think he's going to run into again in this series, and the efficiency just isn't going to come as easily. He's going to have to work a lot harder than the Celtics are going to have to work on the opposite side of the ball. For Cat, I think that he could have a pretty good offensive series. I actually thought that he was great in their last matchup. He was doing a really nice job of bullying switches in the exact way that I like to see from Cat, where he's catching the ball with good post position. He's back to the basket, back down, get to his hook shot, keep it simple. That was really effective. And he can exploit KP in a couple spots in the same way that KP can exploit him, given that they're both slower footed bigs. So as a popper, he might get some good looks. Out in transition as a trailer, he might get some good looks from deep. But still, he's going to have to work harder than the Celtics offensive pieces are, vice versa, when they target him, just because, like, everybody involved in this equation, the perimeter defenders, the interior defenders, are significantly better for Boston, and they don't have those weak points defensively. So it's just really, really hard for me to see how the Knicks make this like a super tight series, because I think that Boston is the better offensive team with more firepower, and I think Boston is the way better defensive team. This was a terrible matchup for the Knicks all year. They're really good, but they don't have the flexibility and the versatility needed to really compete with Boston's offense and to provide any resistance. So I think it's very possible that the Magic just played the Celtics tougher than the Knicks will. I'm going Celtics in 5. If this went 6, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be impressed. I'd be like, good for you, New York, because I just think that they are going to get ripped to shreds on the defensive end.
I've also got Celtics in 5.
Yeah.
I think Orlando's, and people may look at it and say, you know, the Knicks have more firepower and punch, and obviously they do, but when we're talking about the playoffs, it comes much more down to matchups, and Orlando has consistently been great at defending Boston, and I think that's more important, and Boston is like literally like they're a historically great offense in terms of what they do and the shots that they generate and how easy they make it look. I'm with you, man. If the Celtics, if the Knicks can push 6, I'll be impressed with them, and I'll consider it a dub. And let me ask you something. Let me ask you something about the Knicks. Fully healthy last year, who poses more of a threat to this Celtics team? Last year's group or this year's?
That's an interesting question.
Because you have Hartenstein, you have Robinson, you have Randall. Like, again, that's why I say fully healthy. But, DiVincenzo is still there. Like, I definitely prefer the depth. I just don't know if it's a better matchup still.
That's a really interesting question. I guess it kind of depends on, like, is Julius Randle going to defend like we saw him in this past series, or like the version the Knicks got of him defensively? But I do think that was certainly a better defensive group, especially in this specific matchup. There's more of an offensive burden on Brunson. I think it would be a serious long shot either way, but I would say that team had a better chance, at least, of making this more of a series on the defensive end. But they didn't have Mikal, obviously, so it's not a significant difference in either way, in my opinion. And I do think, like, this fundamental roster construction with Cat as your defensive anchor, as your center, and Brunson being out there as such a liability as a small guard in this matchup where their mismatch attacking is so elite, like, they are going to exploit those guys so easily that I don't see the path to how New York can even get better than this Boston team without making major changes. Like, until this Boston team breaks up.
Well, I was going to say, like, what if after Porzingis leaves?
Well, then that's a different story. But still, I wouldn't feel good about them. Because, like, even though I think Porzingis is going to have a really good series, it's not like he is necessary for Boston to dominate. Like, if he's still struggling shooting, like you were talking about, cool, man. I'm going with Al Horford, and he's going to be getting the same great pick and pop looks, and now we're super switchable defensively. Like, you're really not going to lose your key advantages, even if a guy like KP isn't out there on the floor, even though I do think that he should be significantly better in this series than he was in the last. Good for the Knicks, man. Really good team. Amazing first-round series. Boston is just a juggernaut, and the Knicks are not the team that is built to give them a hard time. The NBA 82-game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory.
All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and let's make this playoff run unforgettable.
Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NERDS. That's code NERDS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Let's talk about the 1-seed Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the 4-seed Indiana Pacers, Logan. I am extremely excited for this matchup, more so definitely than I am for Celtics-Knicks, because I think that this one should be more competitive and interesting. And specifically, these are just two phenomenal offenses. These were the top two offenses in the first round of the playoffs by offensive rating. So we know that we're in for a shootout between these two teams. So Logan, I want to start with the Cavs. How do they try to slow the Pacers' potent offense down? And do you think they're capable of doing that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think the Cavs are really well equipped to slow down the Pacers' offense. Now, that's what's so interesting about this series, man, is I think the Cavs have the personnel, but like the Pacers can throw such a potent punch on any given game. I really think a lot of these individual games could come down to which team shoots better from behind the arc or whose bench performs better. A few of these games could be decided by that. The reason that I'm so confident in the Cavaliers being able to disrupt Indiana is specifically because of their front court tandem of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and specifically the number 2 and number 3 on most given nights for Haliburton. Haliburton's partners in crime are Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner, and I just think Allen and Mobley are really good deterrents for them. Now, look, Siakam and Turner both got theirs in the regular season. These are only 2 games, mind you. The numbers that I'm referring to against Cleveland, because the final 2 games were basically like B teams for Cleveland. So in 2 games versus the actual healthy Cavs, Siakam put up 21, 8, and 3, and Turner gave you 16, 8, and 1. I think to beat Cleveland, those guys are going to have to produce a little bit better than that, but Allen and Mobley are great defensively, and I think they can actually disrupt both of those guys. Mobley can guard in space on either of those guys. He's one hell of a rim protector, and Allen is one hell of a rim protector too. So I think a lot of the easy offense that Indiana is able to generate, Cleveland can really throw a wrench into. If it is Siakam and Turner individually in these matchups, or if it's a guy like Obi Toppin, who gave them really good minutes last round, I think the Cavs can do a really good job of taking some of those shots away. That's where I really look at Mobley as the difference maker and X factor in this series, Carson. Like, offensively and defensively, man. I don't look at a player on Indiana being able to hold him. I think he's going to dominate on the glass. I think he's going to wreck the game defensively. And I don't think the Pacers have a good answer for him offensively. And so this is a really fascinating series, man. But I think Cleveland is probably more well-equipped to slow down Indiana, I'd say, than anybody else in the field in the East, save Boston. Because I think Boston's just got such a wealth of defenders that they can go to. But if there's anybody else that I believe in, it's definitely Cleveland, man. I think they're going to make life harder on Indiana than anybody has in the past 2 years.
It is definitely hard to slow this Pacers offense down no matter what, though. Like, that's a real challenge for anybody. And they've just been playing phenomenal basketball for a really extended stretch now. They are 45-19 since their slow start to the season. They've been a top 7 offense in that span, and obviously we just saw them absolutely shred the Bucks defense. I do think that Cleveland is significantly better equipped to deal with the Pacers on the defensive end, because everything starts with the Pacers offense, with their pick and roll attack. And can you do anything to keep them remotely in check? The Bucks were not capable of that, especially when Brook Lopez was on the floor, because he was a slow-footed true drop big, and they were just able to exploit him out in space and manufacture a bunch of great looks from beyond the arc. The ideal pick and roll coverage against the Pacers is to be able to switch everything, because then you can force Hallie to try to beat you as a scorer in isolation, where he's not as great as he is when he's just picking apart drop coverage and he's consistently finding the bigs popping and he's getting to his floater and his pull-up three. He's so comfortable doing all of that. And you're taking away the pick and pop looks for Miles Turner especially, but also for Siakam. And those guys are great jump shooting bigs, especially Turner. Like, that is his bread and butter offensively. If you can force them to beat a switch against somebody who's actually capable defending, especially for Turner, like, that is a much more effective counter to him defensively. Siakam is a great mismatch attacker, so you have to be able to get a decent body on him for that to be functional. So I would start putting Max Strus on Hallie. I think that this is probably a series in which Strus is starting again over DeAndre Hunter, although I can see the case for starting Hunter, because then, like, there's basically no advantage off switches for the Pacers, because if Hunter is switching on to Siakam, well, he can really defend in that matchup. If he's switching on to Turner, like, this is a 6'8" forward with really good tools, but Strus, I think, can still do a decent enough job on those bigger guys off of switches, and I do think he's more equipped to deal with a guard like Hallie on a possession-to-possession basis. So that's where I would start. And the really key component for Cleveland executing this scheme defensively is that Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are really good switching bigs. They are both very comfortable guarding out in space, especially Mobley is one of the best bigs in basketball guarding in space. I will say, we just saw in the last game that Hallie played him toasting Giannis off the bounce, off of switches. And although Giannis has certainly regressed defensively, that's still one of the more high-end defensive bigs guarding out in space in the NBA. But I think that you're always better off trying to make Hallie beat a big, good athlete one-on-one than, again, letting him pick you apart out of drop. And I think it's going to be really, really important that Hallie gets his three ball going because he can get by you. But as we've talked about, he's not always super confident in his ability to finish in traffic. He's going to look to facilitate if he does get by you, and he's going to create good shots for others. But with a guy who can move his feet like Mobley in space, he might try to get him to give him a little bit more of that cushion and then see if he can hunt the step back three, see if he can really get that pull up three going. That to me is what I would expect Hallie to be hunting, and he's got to shoot better than he did last series for that to be really effective. So I definitely think that they have a better counter for the Pacers pick and roll attack than the Bucks did by far, because they can actually switch everything with their best personnel, whereas like the Bucks had to go to Bobby Portis, they had to go to kind of their bench group to be able to execute that even functionally, and still they didn't have as good personnel as the Cavs do. The one weak point for Cleveland defensively is Darius Garland. In any matchup, but especially if you are running a very switch-heavy scheme, I think you have to put him on Andrew Nembhard, and I think that when Nembhard is running pick and roll, you're not switching everything, and you're playing drop, and you have Garland late switch to get out to the three-point line if the big pops, and then you're potentially going to have to like force the big to beat Garland from the perimeter, or if they just reset and they try to get the big post position, then you may have to double and scramble, try to switch back really quickly. Like Garland is going to present problems for them defensively no matter what. And my goal is just to hide him as much as possible and not immediately concede a switch to the bigs because it's just too much of a size advantage. And especially Siakam, he's so good at exploiting that. So Cleveland, they've got excellent backline defenders with their two bigs, but the biggest key against Indiana is containing the ball to begin with, because the drive and kick game, especially with Hallie, like that's when they're at their best, making the extra pass, finding open shooters, moving without the ball and moving the ball. And you have to not concede those outright mismatches as much as possible. If that is for Hallie out on the perimeter, or if that is for Siakam off a switch, I think Cleveland can do a pretty good job at executing those two objectives. And you talked about the Pacers front court and who they are going to be dealing with as their matchups. Like, I really think Siakam is going to have to do most of his work in this series, either in transition or off of switches, because I think he's got a really difficult individual matchup in Evan Mobley. I think Mobley's going to do a great job on him when they're just matched up straight up.
I just wouldn't attack Evan Mobley. I mean, he's the defensive player of the year. I think any switch you get on him, I'm passing the ball. Just like that's not even a...
For Hallie, you're not trying to get by him.
He's swatting that shit. I don't know if Hallie's... I know Hallie's got a good step back and release, but with that set jumper, I just wonder if he's going to have enough time to get it over those long arms of Mobley. And Mobley's a really great defender in space. So, yes. But Hallie is the guy that I look at for Indiana. Obviously, Haliburton's the star of the team. He's the guy that's going to have to go above and beyond in this series to make it happen, because I do think he has the key matchup on the other end that he can exploit, and that is Darius Garland in single coverage, and that's who I'm attacking if I'm Indiana, and that's who I'm attacking if I'm Boston, if we're looking forward to the conference finals. Garland is the guy that I'm going at repeatedly over and over again, and that's why I think it's important that Hallie stays aggressive in this matchup, hunts his shot continuously. Like, I don't know how easy it's going to be for anybody else. And Indiana's a really good system. They're good at relocating off ball. And like you said, the drive and kick game, the ball movement, it all moves in tandem. But everybody else is a really good defender on Cleveland, save Mitchell and Garland. And that's why I'm attacking both of those guys. But Haliburton is the guy to me that can get to those step-back jumpers, that can get to those runners in the lane, that little intermediate mid-range area. He's the guy that I trust the most to create and generate his own looks in this series. And I don't know, man. Like, I think for the Pacers to win this series, dude, I think that the Pacers get super hot shooting from behind the arc. I think you need all hands on deck. I'm talking Nembhard, Siakam, Turner, flame throwing behind the arc, Nesmith, Mathurin, everybody. Ben Shepherd, nobody's missing. And I think Haliburton needs to give you, like, is like 27 too ridiculous of a number? I think it's going to have to be really,
that's a big number,
really high for Hallie to. I'm at least saying bare minimum 25 plus.
Wow.
At the minimum for the Pacers to win this series from Hallie, and I think that's a lot to ask.
I do think he absolutely has to be better as a shooter and scorer in this series. Like, he was phenomenal as a playmaker, creating for others in round one because, again, he was just exploiting Brook over and over again. He was doing a nice job of beating switches with his quickness, not to score, but to play make. All that stuff was great, but with how much I expect Cleveland to switch and with how capable their bigs are guarding in space, like, Hallie is going to have to be more of a consistent scoring presence. And personally, I would definitely be more inclined to try to get that Jared Allen switch than the Mobley switch. Even though Allen is good guarding in space, he's not as great as Mobley is. So I do think that Hallie is the key player for the Pacers in this series. I do think that they're going to get theirs offensively, but like you said, I think that the Cavs are going to be even harder to stop. So how do you feel about the other side of the ball? How can Indiana's defense try to slow the Cavs down, and is that possible?
No, I don't think it is. I think this is going to be too overwhelming for Indiana. Really, it is because of the drive and kick game for Cleveland in this aspect to me. Cleveland's offense is so good. All the contributors play so together. Like, one, we can just start with the individuals. Mitchell and Garland are a handful to deal with in isolation by themselves. Garland's one of the quickest guards in basketball. If his pull-up three is going, if his floater is going, like, he's just a tough matchup to deal with individually. Mitchell, by himself, we all know how hot he can get. He gets to the rim effortlessly, and when his pull-up three is going, he's super hard to stop. So those guys are problems, period. Then you get to Evan Mobley, and Mobley is a handful to deal with now in single coverage because, like, he just, to me, has such distinct athletic advantages against Indiana's bigs. I don't know how they slow him down. I think he's quicker-footed off the dribble than both of them. I think he could get by Siakam and Turner pretty reliably, but he's also longer and more athletic than both of those guys, where I think he's going to win box outs and get to easy looks off putbacks and on the offensive glass. And I think he's just going to be able to get by them and over the top of them for shots at the rim. Now he can space the floor, too, which is going to drag Siakam or Turner away for the rim and open up everything else for everybody in the middle. But the biggest problem to me, Carson, is the collective. It's all the shooting that Cleveland has together, and it's the ability for all of these guys, after the advantage is created, to attack closeouts and get into the lane that then puts everybody in rotation and opens up stuff on the back end. If that's catching shooters or if that's guys in the dunker spots, because I don't like Indiana's rim protection either, where I could see Allen and Mobley feasting really efficiently under the rim with easy opportunities. And again, it's not just Mitchell and Garland. It's Ty Jerome off the bench who can manufacture you some shots. It's Max Strus giving you some supplementary ball handling. It's DeAndre Hunter giving you the tertiary ball handling. Like, it's everybody that can kill you on this team. And Cleveland's been the best offense in basketball. That's the point I don't want to undersell. It's like Indiana, I think, can go blow for blow, can go buck for most of the game. But Cleveland has the offense that I trust more. And they got the defense that I trust more. That's a huge imperative point of this. But I just do trust Cleveland's offense to churn it out, to keep going, and to never stop. And they're just one of the toughest offenses to stop in the NBA, man. It's really as simple as that.
They are statistically one of the greatest offenses that we've ever seen. They were a top 10 relative offense in league history this season. Then they went out and put forth the single highest offensive rating we have ever seen in a playoff series. They are one of the greatest pick and roll attacks that we have ever seen. So they are the best offense in basketball, and it's going to be a major, major challenge for the Pacers to offer any resistance. I do want to give credit to Indiana for their improvement on the defensive end this year, where they've gone from a group that was, I think, 24th in defensive rating last year to being really solid this year. And they have good point of attack defenders. Like, Andrew Nembhard is a solid matchup for Darius Garland.
Nesmith
He's going to pressure the ball. Yeah, Nesmith is solid too. But Nembhard, he's quick, he's feisty. I'm just not sure how uncomfortable he can actually make Darius Garland because he doesn't have that elite size and length. Nesmith, I also think, is a decent matchup on Mitchell, but he's not quite quick enough for me to love him in that matchup against a guard as explosive as Donovan Mitchell. And when you think about what Indiana does at a high level, defensively. It's really their ability to pressure the ball. They bring more ball pressure than basically any other defense in basketball. Maybe Minnesota brings more. Cleveland might be the best equipped offense to beat that, though. Like, their entire offense is captained by two phenomenal ball handling guards who have great quickness. So they're just not going to be bothered by that ball pressure. And now maybe they're even beating you down court, and now they're able to get into some early offense. And then they've got another guard in Ty Jerome who can come in and lead the show and is also extremely, extremely potent offensively. So they were a phenomenal offense versus the press this year. I just don't think that's going to bother them. And I just really don't see Indiana being able to contain those two guards much at all. And that kickstarts everything for the Cavs offense because they have two of the best offensive guards and two of the best pick and roll creators in basketball. And when they are consistently getting downhill, they're obviously going to fry you as pull-up shooters as well, especially Garland. But then they're able to really create phenomenal three-point looks for excellent shooters all around them. The Cavs are one of, if not the best cutting team in basketball with great play finishing bigs. So, like, if the guards are going to be comfortable, the Cavs offense is going to be dominant. And I think the guards are going to be comfortable in this matchup because this offense is just special, man. Like I mentioned, elite shooting all around. The Pacers create a lot of good looks from three, and they have a lot of good shooters, but it's on another level with the Cavs. They were top 2 in threes made, and they were top 2 in three-point percentage this year. And in their first round series, they just made 19 threes per game and shot 44% from deep. And like, yeah, that's a crazy shooting series. But when you have Garland and Mitchell and an improved Mobley and Max Strus, who is a weapon, and DeAndre Hunter, who's a 40% three-point shooter, and Ty Jerome, who's an elite three-point shooter. I don't think Sam Merrill plays a ton in this series, but he's an elite shooter. Dean Wade is a good shooter. Like, they just have so many weapons. They do have even more offensive firepower. They do have even more depth. Like, I think that favors Cleveland. That's a rare thing for Indiana to not have the depth advantage. But as good as their depth is, like, even Cleveland's quote-unquote bench units are still going to include multiple elite basketball players because of their minute stagger. You're always going to have one of the great guards and one of the great bigs on the floor. And then their bench players are really, really good. They have one of the best and deepest offensive supporting casts that we've seen in a long time. So if I'm Kenny Atkinson, I would count on my top 7, specifically a little bit more than he has. Like, even last series, he was going straight up 10 deep. There's a couple guys who I'm not as inclined to play as much in this series, like Merrill because of his defensive limitations, like Okoro because I don't trust his offense as much. But their top 7 is phenomenal. Like, I would lean even more into Hunter and Strus just eating up those minutes on the wings because I think that they are so good really on both sides of the ball. And I think that Kenny can just play his best guys a little more than usual. Like, he's been playing his best players 30 minutes per game end to end this year and going 10 deep consistently. Like, this is a series where he can play his best guys 34, 36 minutes a game, and he can still go 8 deep with awesome basketball players. And, I just think that they're going to win the minutes for the most part with all of their different lineup combinations because they have so many different great lineup combinations. Like you said it, man, there's just a lot of little advantages that Cleveland has that amount to them being pretty clearly the better basketball team. Like, I trust all their clutch offense even a little bit more.
All their players are so versatile too, man. Like, there's not a lot of one-dimensional players in Cleveland. Like,
not at all.
You can shoot, the guy can normally play make a little bit or attack a closeout, right? Like Ty Jerome and Strus, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if they're not creating the initial action on ball, like if they're attacking a closeout, both of those guys are smart enough and good enough skill-wise, they're either going to get to a good look or they're going to dump it off to a big. Or, if it's Mobley now. Like, Cleveland really is like, pick your poison, man. Do you want us to have an easy look in the lane or do you want us to have an easy look from 3? Because we're going to generate one or the other. Cleveland's damn good, man.
Yeah,
like, they
crazy.
are. And I'm telling you, I know we've said this, but if Boston has another down series, I really think they're vulnerable. Like, Boston, again, let me be clear about that because I don't want that to get misconstrued. I think Boston has to play really below the level that we expect them. Like, but if that series goes 6 or 7, the Celtics series, I think they're susceptible, man. The Cavs are that good.
Oh, yeah. Boston's got to be sharp offensively because Cleveland's offense is just going to be dominant in any matchup. I mean, it's just an insane combination of elite creation and elite play finishing, both in terms of shooting and at the rim. So I think that they have the better offensive personnel. They have more star power. They're deeper. They have the better defensive personnel. They're better on the boards. They were 12th in rebound rate. The Pacers were 28th. Cleveland's going to go double big a lot. Part of the Pacers being so low, I think, is they normally just really don't crash the offensive glass. But still, Cleveland is the better rebounding team. They're the better team on both sides. And if I had to identify a key player for them, I guess I'll go with two. I think it's the bigs. I think that they really set the tone for Cleveland in a number of ways in this series. Like, I do think they really have to dictate the glass because that should be an advantage for Cleveland in this matchup. But they weren't a great defensive rebounding team down the stretch of this season. So they've got to win on the glass. The bigs are crucial to your entire defensive game plan because they have to really defend well on switches. I'm saying their defensive game plan. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm certainly expecting them to be switch heavy in this matchup. And then I think that Mobley's really important offensively because he's got to keep stepping into and hitting threes, and he's got to be comfortable attacking mismatches when he gets them. I have faith in the Cavs checking all of those boxes, and I want to be clear, I'm saying the Cavs are better in all these areas. I don't expect the Pacers to get blown out in a single game in this series. I just think their offensive floor is so high, and their depth is still so good. They're just so reliably great, especially offensively. I think we're in for an awesome 6-game series, but it would be disappointing for the Cavs if they lost this. Indiana's really good. I do think they're the third best team in the East.
Oh, I mean, it would be a monumental disappointment. It would be a meltdown is what I would consider it. Indiana's a really good team. I mean, it would be crazy for them back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals appearances like this. I mean,
so good for the Halley agendas. Oh, my God, we'd be eating.
Phenomenal.
We'd be feasting.
But I think Cleveland's way better. And like you said, I am going to take this to be a shorter series because of my faith in Cleveland, but I think all of these games are going to be really close into the fourth quarter. So I'm going to take, and I'm disappointed because I wanted to be a little bit spicier with either of these predictions, but I'm going to take the Cavs in 5.
Wow, that's interesting. It's hard for me to pick anybody to beat Indiana that quickly. I don't know. Their offense is just so great that even though they lost to Boston in a sweep last year, all of those games were so close, and they didn't have Halley for 2 of them even. I think
this is
that
more
they'll
of
get 2.
This is more of a respect thing for Cleveland.
I love it. Listen, man, I love Cavs respect. I think it's insane that a team won 64 games and had a top 20 net rating in NBA history, and everybody wants to go out there and call them the 2015 Hawks or slander them in whatever way. Cleveland is phenomenal. They have been a part of a tier that is well above everybody else in basketball end to end this year with just Boston and OKC. And I'm very, very excited to see what they do in this series. But I'm also excited to see what the Pacers do because I love them. And I think these are 2 great offensive teams, which means we're going to have a lot of really, really fun games in this series. There you have it, folks. Our previews, our predictions, our keys for these 2 incoming Eastern Conference semifinals. So excited for both of these matchups. And very excited to see what is coming next in the West, which we will know for sure over these next couple days. We've got Rockets-Warriors Game 6 tonight. We will be live after that. Then we've got Clippers-Nuggets Game 7 tomorrow. We will be live after that. If you don't already know, we've been live every single night of the postseason so far after the games wrap up, giving our takes, yapping away. So you can always come join us there for the post-game live stream. You can also catch all those episodes later, and on our YouTube channel, you can see all of our video essays and video breakdowns that we do where we go more in depth on a specific topic. You can also listen to the shows across all audio platforms, and you can follow us across social, TikTok, Instagram @NerdSesh, Twitter @Nerd_Sesh to see clips from the show, graphics from the show, and all of our short form trivia content. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.